Great. So, Liz, thanks so much. Really insightful presentation. Alex, you're the head of retail media at Halfords. There's going to be a lot of people in the room who don't know who Halfords are, so can you quickly tell them?
Yeah, sure. So I'm pretty new at Halfords, so I've got a little cheat sheet with some stats and measures on here. But we're the leading retailer of automotive and cycling products in the UK. We've got around 400 stores, 650 garages. So the business is split between retail. So we sell sort of car products and cycling products. We also sell bikes in the retail part of the business. But we'll also help to service cars. So if you need your annual sort of check and statement of good health for your vehicle, called the MOT in the UK, you can get that done with Halfords. And what that means is we have a really interesting view of customer behavior. You know, they're buying car cleaning products, but they're also getting their car serviced, what those behaviors look like. And we've got a really interesting data set. So we've got 30 million visible customers and 16 million vehicle registration numbers. So again, that data is really, really interesting when you look at it, especially when it comes to retail media.
Very good. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. I guess we tend to look at retail media in sort of 4 blocks: the proposition, the products, the advertising, assets, and then the way that these are sold either to brands or to media agencies, and then the ad ops, the way that the ads are served up, and of course the data. So, question for you, Liz, thinking about those 4 pillars, what do you see as the kind of some of the key challenges and perhaps the opportunities also that you're facing?
Great question. I spoke about if you're running a successful retail media network, for us as Sainsbury's, really we're operating, my part of the business, we're operating as a media owner. But essentially I'm owned by a retailer. So I guess the challenge is there's sometimes a little bit of healthy tension between a retailer and a sort of driving commercials as a media owner. And Sainsbury's, Argos in the UK stands firm on their brand's reputation, rightly so. They've been in existence over 150 years. Everything that many of us as retailers do is about our brand reputation. And I guess when we're trying to connect to customers, when we're trying to commercialize that retailer estate, be it on-site, in-store, or e-commerce, there's always a bit of a healthy tension, I guess, between what will win out and what's the right thing to do. So I think it's less of a challenge. I think it's more of an observation for us that we have to work in real close partnership with both our loyalty colleagues in Nectar and, of course, our retail colleagues who put customer at the heart of everything we do. I think, conversely to your second part, Steve, the opportunity for us then is more rich customer data, and how do we really pace with store digitization. So again, physical store format in the UK, retail is very, is not margin rich. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. So while as a media operator, and as Kirsten mentioned earlier, that retail media offers a new revenue stream in, the pace of change that we would like for our advertisers, for our brands, for our media agencies across store digitization is probably a bit slow, but offers a huge opportunity to really drive that personalization in store environment.
So I could imagine, Liz, that if you're the head of retail at Sainsbury's, or you're the head of e-commerce at Sainsbury's, or even if you're the head of marketing, then your whole focus is going to be about the customer, and you're going to want to look your stores to look pristine to help the customers buy what they want. You want your website to be easy to shop so people can get what they want quickly. And if you're the marketing director, you're thinking about all the time the Sainsbury's brand.
Yep.
But if you're running a retail media network, you want to generate ad income, and that creates a big tension potentially.
Yep.
So what are some of those tensions, and how in a business like Sainsbury's do they get resolved?
Yeah. So I think probably the biggest tension on that is the volume of ads to serve to customers at the right time and at the right place. So, you know, if you're head of brand, head of marketing, you're probably really conscious about the brand messages that you want to land, because ultimately Sainsbury's exists to drive sales and shift product at a really crude level. So the tension there is that sort of volume of ad placements. But as we spoke to, actually the data we now provide means that personalisation and that targeting kind of negates that challenge. Because as you said, if you're just Googling sort of sausages, no longer do we have sort of tenancy pop-ups that's going to talk to you about dog food. Actually, if you're searching sausages, we'll make sure that we're serving you something really relevant, whether that's a sausage brand or whether that's something really akin to UK favourite, so bear with us here, very northern English person here, sausages and mash. How can you not have sausages without your mash? So for us, actually, the challenge has been overcome by that sort of ad tech, that data we're putting into that ad tech to really drive that personalisation and that innovation.
Very good. So, Alex, I understand that Halfords are at the early stages of their retail media journey. What are some of the challenges and issues and opportunities that you're wrestling with?
I think it's a lot the same, to be honest. I think I've worked with a number of different retail media networks now over the years, and I think you see the same or similar challenges, but each business brings its own unique flavour. So I think we've touched on a load of points there, actually. So internal alignment, for example, right? If retail media sits within marketing, all of a sudden you're butting heads with marketing a lot less, because actually that number feeds into the same person ultimately, and they're sort of more aligned to what you're trying to do. The flip side of that is you're probably butting heads with commercial a little bit more, because they want to control the media dollars. So I think it's a lot of that. I think as well you've touched on the point, customer experience, right? Where's the right balance? Like, I go to so many retail media events, right? And we get the question, where's the balance between monetization and customer experience? And there's a right answer and a wrong answer, right? The right answer is we put the customer at the heart of everything that we do, would never jeopardize the customer experience in order to make money. And the wrong answer is we would jeopardize the customer experience in order to make money. And I'm going to give you probably the wrong answer. I'm going to be a little bit controversial here, but I think it's the real answer. And I think there is that tension. And I think, if you are running ads, you're probably in the business of making money. Meta run ads, right? Do I believe that Meta are surfacing ads to me when I'm scrolling on Facebook because they think that's enhancing my experience? No, I don't think that. I'm there to see my friends, see what they're up to. I'm there to maybe consume influencer content. It's a vehicle for driving the revenues that fund the platform that they've built. I think, likewise, if I shop on Tesco, who are the biggest grocery retailer in the UK and who I personally shop with, which is why I'm calling them out, do I believe that all of the ads that I see in store and online are adding to my customer experience? No, they're probably not getting in the way that much, but I don't think they're additive. And I think the key point is they're not getting in the way that much. It's a balance. It's how do we drive revenue, and where's the trade-off in terms of potentially annoying the customer? And I think that balance depends on who you are as a retailer and what your values are. If you're a super premium, really good example, airlines, right? If you're a premium airline, you do not want to jeopardize the customer experience because that would be jarring for the customer. If I, as a consumer, fly with Ryanair, my expectation of the customer experience that I'm going to get is very, very different to if I'm flying with that premium retailer. So I'm a little bit more willing to accept a clunky customer experience, and in the world of retail media, more ads, than I would be if I fly with a premium retailer. So I think it's finding that balance. What's your identity as a retailer? And then once you've got that, you can decide where on that spectrum of monetization versus customer experience you sit.
Goes back to that value exchange, doesn't it? Exactly
yeah,
that.
100%.
Yeah.
Would you say, Liz, that Nectar 360, is that a loyalty business or is it a retail media business?
I'd say Nectar 360. It's a good question. We're both, I would say, actually. We cannot operate without Nectar, hand in heart. So our loyalty colleagues sit in Nectar 360. I've got James and Don here. We cannot operate one without the other for us in Sainsbury's, because to your point, actually our values are high in terms of that additive consumer journey. So actually for us, it's really symbiotic, but it depends on the retailer and it depends exactly on that value exchange where your loyalty team sits. We have a separate sort of loyalty CRM in our broader marketing department, but Nectar 360, absolutely hand in heart in terms of our coalition loyalty plan and our retail media business.
And so most of the people here are probably in the loyalty side of the business. Can you talk a little bit about, maybe start with you, Alex, how does the loyalty part of the business and the retail media part of the business, how do they collaborate, cooperate?
Yeah, I think it's a very close relationship, right? You like I said, there's a balance. You don't want to, undermine the customer experience too much unless you have to. And actually, I'm not saying that you can't do retail media in a way that does add to the customer experience. I think you can if it's a superb execution. I think to your point with the volume, quite often that's not the reality. But I think that. Remind me of the question. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
Well, I was really thinking about how the people in the loyalty team of a retail business, say, work with the people in the retail media. How do they work together?
So because it's such a close relationship and you don't want to undermine that customer experience too much unless you have to, you need that data, right, to fuel the insights that really help you do a insights-driven campaign so that you're not just sort of going in and putting ads up willy-nilly. It's fueled by the data. You're going, if it's online, for example, there's so much you can do with personalization. If you're a grocery retailer, for example, knowing that I have ad budget to serve a coffee ad isn't enough, right? If I know that, Steve, you like coffee pods versus instant coffee or decaf or whatever it might be, I can serve a more relevant ad to you, and that means it hinders your experience less. So I think the data really fuels all of the decisions that you're making when you're running the campaigns. Equally, if you've got a loyalty app or your the loyalty part of your business sits within the retail app, you can serve content into the app. And again, it's that balance of how do we make that content then link to the offers, the promotions, the rewards mechanics that we have in the loyalty app. So it's very much a two-way conversation. It's one, how do we use the data to make sure that everything's insight-led and driven and ultimately helping to set the campaign up for success, but it's also where can we serve the media. It can be another sort of channel. I think the third part actually is post-campaign reporting as well. You need that data to know and be able to do closed-loop measurement and say to the client, the advertiser, well, actually, your campaign delivered this value. And I think that's a really good opportunity then to get in front of the advertiser and say, look, this is really working. And you should do more of it. And it's a great way to upsell and grow your business. But if you don't have the data, you can't actually show the value you're delivering.
And if I could just build on that last point, I think it's really pertinent to build that for us, certainly, and I'm sure the same for you at Halfords, obviously the success of a retail media network is, of course, its commercials back. But also, let's not forget for us in this room today that actually if you're offering a really deep, rich, reward, personalised approach, that also drives back to the health of the loyalty scheme and drives more participation in the loyalty for us. And certainly, to go back to your earlier point, Steve, for us at Nectar 360, of course, we're a commercial business. We want to win with the customer in mind, but there's also that hygiene of making sure that that health of the loyalty programme, we're driving new participation, and that kind of flywheel is full circle as well.
So probably final question, given the time, but if loyalty programs are playing such an important and intrinsic role in retail media, and retail media is generating, for the UK supermarkets, hundreds of millions of pounds of profitability, do you think there's an argument then that retailers especially should look to broaden out and either join a coalition or expand their loyalty programs into coalitions? Is it an argument in favour of coalition programs versus single brand?
I think it's a very good question. I think it very much depends on the retailer's objective. So for us, I mean, we operate as a data coalition across different verticals, and that's our kind of USP, and that gives us that real rich cross-section of who our customer is. But for us, and as we've spoken to, the customer and doing the right thing for our customer to drive sales, but manage that air traffic control in terms of the volume of advertising and the type of advertising we're serving, means we certainly probably wouldn't look to grow. but I'm sure it's absolutely relevant for certain formats and certain verticals out there, absolutely.
What about for Halfords?
Yeah, I think. Remind me of the question again. Sorry.
Well, it's I guess you said earlier. I think that you said there were tens of millions of motorists in the Halfords loyalty program.
Yeah.
Would it make sense for that program to
Yeah, the
partner up
coalition
with other
point.
brands?
Sorry, I was watching the clock tick down, and I was like, "Oh, we're running over," and I'm sure Tommy won't be happy, so I'll keep it short. I think, yeah, it depends on your objective, right? And it also depends on the size of you as a retailer and the size of your loyalty program. So I think, if you feel you're big enough and you have an interesting enough data set to go on the journey of monetizing that on your own, then by all means go ahead and go on that journey, especially when it comes to sort of engaging the agencies. You're going to need huge scale. If you're a smaller player, then actually maybe it makes more sense joining part of a coalition, or if you don't feel that you've got the experience or the know-how internally, it makes more sense to partner, I think. So I think ultimately it goes back to your original point. What's the ultimate objective?
Very good. I think we shall leave it there. And thank you very much, Liz. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.